Good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock. How is everybody today? I got to go to the quilt show today. It was great. I love to go to this quilt show. This is the quilt show that's called the I-80 Shop Hop. And I really like the quilt show because it's local shops in this area. And I so often don't get to go to those shops because they're all closed. Hi. Oh, so the Waspers are here. Oh, hi, Barb. And hi, Lynn. Who else is here? Looks like maybe Lisa is here. Cool. Is everybody hearing me okay? My computer was kind of weird today, so I had to set up the camera. Sorry. But no, we went out to the shop hop, and but it's fun because these are like local places that are fairly close, and everybody is closed on Sunday and Monday. A bunch of the ones that are way up north of us that come are open on Mondays, but it's so far away. You know, they're 2-hour drive away, so it's just hard for me to go to quilt shop. So hi, Marilyn. Hi, Pat. Hi, Garnet. So is everybody ready to make some more starting over blocks? So how is everybody doing on starting over? How many people? Give me thumbs ups if you have starting over, if you have started making some blocks. So send me some thumbs up. Hi, Deb. Hi, Kathy. Everybody's hearing me okay? Hi, Marcia. So yeah, so if you have started some blocks, you know, give me some thumbs up. I know people have been buying fabric and everything. Hi, Clara. Hi, Debbie. So tonight we're going to review making a block, and because I want to just do, we only did one block before, so because we did a lot of talking at the first class because of we needed to talk about how to read the book and everything. Have people started some blocks? Some of you had done this class. Oh, cool. We got some thumbs up. Some of you had done this class many years ago when I did it. I mean, it's been almost 10 years ago. And some people just wanted to finish their quilts. You know, they may have gotten them partly done and never finished them, so they're dragging them out and finishing them. So I think that's great. And I'm on row, I'm on row H. So I'm about to do the longest rows. I think the longest row, we decided, Judy and I, the longest row was either I or J. Because there's, the longest row has 9 piece blocks in it. And then there's also then the little circles. So tonight we're going to do one regular block. We're going to review the regular block and we'll talk through it again. And then, oh, hi girls. Oh, hi Mitzi. Hi Denise. Jan Feldhaus. Hi everybody. And we got Marcia and we've got Chris and Tammy. Hi everybody. So we're going to talk through the piece block again. And then I'm going to also show you the Celtic Circles and the setting triangles. So there's some triangles on the outside borders of the quilt. And let me grab my quilt back here in a second. So like what I'm talking about is, see if I can hold it up so you can see it. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of these extra blocks that are in here, like these little triangles there's 2 sizes of triangles in the quilt. The setting triangles are the side ones, okay? And then there's going to be one on the end of each row. And then we're going to talk about these Celtic circles right here. And then on each corner, there's you only need 4 of these. There's a smaller triangle that goes in the corner all the way on the, you know, each 4 corners. So that's a little bit smaller. So we're going to also do a couple of those blocks tonight so you can see, and then so that you know which patterns you need to, so you know which design you need to do those too. So, but we're going to do one block first, and then we're going to do the extra blocks. And so then you'll have another month, and then we will start working on, oh, hi Janan, hi Judy, hi Jackie. And then next month, I'm going to show you how to put it together so that you can start putting your blocks together. If you haven't gotten started yet, or if you've started and you want to start putting your stuff together, I'll show you how to put it together next month. I was going to do that at the end, but I decided to flip month 4 and 3 so you can start assembling the center, and then we'll do the borders on the 4th month. I'll show you how to make a border block, and then I'll show you how to assemble the border. So we'll do like half the assembly next month, and then the rest of it at the end. Okay? So as the borders you'll be doing at the end anyway. So, okay? All right, let me put this back up here. Get it out of our way for right now. So we're going to do a little reviewing first. We're going to talk about making another block. And again, when I did these, I am using my standard hoop for this. And I've had a couple of questions about this pre-cut stabilizer. And when Judy and I went and did some I went and looked and did some investigating again. I've used these pre-cut stabilizers for many years. They have gone up a lot in price. And so when you're not ordering like huge quantities, it's actually cheaper because the dime roll stabilizer is quite inexpensive in comparison to some of it. It's actually cheaper to use the roll stabilizer. So that we have at the store. These pre-cuts, I have tons of them, and I've been using these for years. So the reason I'm using a standard hoop is this pre-cut is 8 by 8, and it fits better in the little standard hoop instead of in my magnetic hoop. The magnetic hoop is a little taller, and they don't fit very well. So that's why I'm using this. So you can use the magnetic hoops if you want, and then the 5x7, we're going to actually use one of the designs in the 5x7 hoop tonight. I also have a pre-cut for that. That's a 9x12. But again, I did some math, and it's actually cheaper to do the roll stabilizer. So then you can buy rolled stabilizer and do it that way instead of the pre-cuts. I mean, I can order these for you, but it's going to cost more. I've just been using these pre-cuts for so many years, and I have a lot of them around, so I still use them. Okay, so there was a question about that earlier. So it's actually more cost effective to use the roll stabilizer now. The dime stabilizer is quite reasonable. The Floriani stabilizer is a little bit more, and the dime no-show mesh is a little cheaper, and they put it in, you know, a 10-yard roll, so it's actually pretty reasonable. So, okay, so that's kind of my little thing about that. Was one of the questions I had recently. So we're going to, so all I've done in here again is my stabilizer in the hoop. Okay, so I've got it hooped. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around, and we'll talk about the fabrics. Second here. Okay, get this turned around. First, we're going to get our design. And I'm just going to do a design with a single color tonight. We did one with, I think, 2 or 3 colors last time. So let's do one with a single color besides the background. And I'm on row H. So I was in, I have the folders listed by rows. And the reason they're in the groupings they are is that the original class got them this way. So I just left them in, like, there was like row A through D was together and E and F were together. So I just left them in those folders like that. Because the other group, the group that did it many years ago, actually did this for 10 months. We got together 10 times to do this, so instead of only 4. But, so I'm on row H is what I said, yeah. So I have to go find H. So G and H are together. And then I'm just going to do H1, which is Aunt Eliza's star. It's a star block. So I have to go down here. It's H1. So it's right here. And I noticed that there was an update. Did you notice that when that came up? Let's go back so you can see. In the Luminaire, this is the Luminaire. And there are color charts in this machine. And the color charts are handled differently than the other machines. So if you get this error message that comes up, it's something to do with the color chart. And like when I touch this, it may not do it this time because it already did it once, but it said something about the colors were something or something. Well, it's something to do with the color charts in here, and they want you have to select in the Luminaire the actual color chart that you've chosen in the software. So it's asking me to go in and choose the Floriani color chart, basically. And they changed the way the machines read colors now, and I have to literally change my machine to the color chart that I have digitized in. Now, in the past, I never had to do that. All I had to do, as long as we're doing this, I'll just show you. So for the rest of you who have Dream Machines on down, the Luminaire is the only one that does this. What I always did is I put my machine on, I have to find it, I think it's on the second page here. Okay, so like here's where it says thread chart and thread brand. I've always put my machine, and so for everybody else you can do this, I always put it on number 1, 2, 3 and embroidery. That is the main setting for the software. I've always set up my machine that way. Well, now they've done stuff with more color charts. So if you look, if I put thread brand up, you can see I've got all these color charts in here now. Okay, so like here's a simplicity. This is the brother thread. You know, there's Floriani, there's Isacord, there's Madeira Poly. Now they want you to actually change the thread chart. And I like actually the old way, because then whatever I digitized in my software would come up if I would just leave it on 1, 2, 3 embroidery. But now I have to change the chart. So I don't know why they did that. So for the rest of you, just so you know, if you digitize something like in PEP and you save it in Floriani, if you put it up as number 1, 2, 3 in embroidery, you probably don't, nobody else has the Floriani thread chart in their machine. It will come up with the Floriani colors. And if you have an older machine, it will come up with the Floriani colors. It's awesome. So anyway, that was a little thing I wanted to talk to you about, was these thread charts, because it keeps coming up. So it's one of those little things that pops up on me. All right, so we're going to go to H1. And this is the, oops, make sure I don't have 2 of them in there. We'll try that again. Don't mind me, folks. Okay, let's see, H1. Got to find H. There we go. I didn't want to have 2 designs in there. Okay, so here's H1, and we're going to set it. Okay, and this one just has one color of fabric other than the background fabric. Okay, all right, so let's pull this around a little bit further. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about reading the directions again. You do need to, for those of you who are doing, we talked about this last time, for you, those of you who are doing fabrics or blocks that have a light background, okay? No, if you have a dark, that's different if you have a dark background, but I have a light background. So I'm going to put my batting in my hoop. Here's my stabilizers in there already. I'm going to put my batting in. And then I'm going to go ahead and start with my fabric in the hoop, my A fabric or the background fabric. A is always the background fabric. If you have a dark colored fabric, you need to leave the fabric, the background fabric, out of the hoop and sew the design as it is. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and so on, because you need to trim away those dark, that fabric away so that the lighter colors that you're putting on top won't bleed through that dark fabric. That's how we figured that out with the black quilt that we made. But if you're doing a lighter fabric like I am, you can just lay the fabrics on top of this, and so then you can do some skipping and you don't have to sew every single step to this design. It really makes it a lot faster. So I'm going to put my light colored fabric in the hoop with my batting, and I am going to put this into the machine, and then I'm going to sew out step number 1. Okay, I always sew step number 1 no matter which color fabric we have as a background. So I'm going to hit my embroidery over here, and I'm going to sew out step number 1. Okay, and I've just got my white, I got like a white thread in the bobbin, or my regular bobbin thread in the bobbin, I should say, and I've got white thread in my needle because my background is white. It's going to go around this outside edge, so I don't want to put a thread in here that's going to be like really super contrasty along my edge, because we need to, we don't want that to show when we go to put it together. So I do put something that's relatively matching in when I'm doing this. So the first step of this is going to give us the outline, or kind of like the road map for the block pieces. Okay, so this is step number 1 on the machine. Now when I wrote the directions, I had to write it out so that for those people that were doing dark patterns, they could use the same patterns. So I did it, I had to go, in fact, we found this out like at the kind of like by accident when we did the black quilt. So I had to go back and redigitize a bunch of these. We had to add some lines. Okay, so now I have completed step number 1. With my light fabric, because I put my fabric in the hoop. If you had black, say, you would not have any fabric in the hoop yet. The next step is those letters. And remember, I put them in so you knew where the fabrics were, but you never sew the letters. So we're always going to fast forward or skip the letters, okay? So to skip a pattern or to skip a step in the design, we're going to go down to the little positive negative needle here. And then on my machine, I have arrows. If you have a different machine, you may have a plus sign next to a little, or a negative sign next to a little spool. And that is how you fast forward through a whole color. So I'm going to use my arrow and go down. Okay. Now, since I have this light colored fabric in here, I am going to skip, because I don't need to do all this other trimming, because my light fabric can be under my other decorative colors, okay, because it's light enough and it's fine. So I'm actually going to skip all the way down to step number 5, because there's those bees. Remember, we don't sew those. And I'm going to go down to step number 5. It's right here. So for those of you doing light colored backgrounds, and I know a lot of people have asked me that, so I know a lot of you are, you sew number 1 with your background and your batting in the hoop, and then you skip to number 5. Okay? This is going to be the placement, or the tack down line for my second color. So now, let's go back over here. Bring it back down, and I'm going to lay my piece of my decorative color on top of the white, and I am going to sew number 5. And this is going to be my tack down for the B color. This particular block only has 2 colors. So I'm only going to have the A and the B. Hopefully this camera's not bouncing too much. It makes you sick. Okay, so we're going to do the tack down. Now the other question that I had recently was, when do you put the matching embroidery thread in the bobbin? And you do that when, second here, I think my camera must be a little loose here. I'm trying to keep it from bouncing on you, sorry. You put the embroidery thread in the bobbin once you've put the back on, because I want the back to have the pretty colors on it, because remember, that is the actual backing of the quilt, and I want the pretty colors of embroidery thread to show through on the back. Now, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. I had some students that just left their bobbin thread in all the time because they didn't want to change the colors. So it's totally up to you if you want to do that. But I like to put the matching thread in the bobbin once the back is on the quilt, on the block. So we'll be doing that in a minute. I will go through it again. All right, so we're doing our tack down. I think I've got a couple more little lines to do. I must have one more corner to do here. There was an extra square. I think there's another square inside here. All of these squares, again, at 5 inches. I cut these all out with my die cutting machine. It was really nice because there's a lot of squares. Okay. So there's our tack down line. Now I have to trim away the extra fabric. Now remember, this design is applique, but it's also reverse applique, because there's some actual places that we're going to cut the top fabric out so you can see what's underneath, okay? So around here, I'm going to go around, hopefully you can see me cutting here. I'm going to try to get a little closer. I have to get my hands in here so I can't get the camera too close. All right, so we're going to trim, and I've got these little scissors that have these really, really sharp little tips on. These are Ginger double curved embroidery scissors. They're 6-inch ones. And you do need to have a very sharp scissor to do this because they're pretty small blocks. And you want to be quite close when you're trimming. So I'm going to get the squares along the outside first. That usually works better for me. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing. And I would refer you to, let's put this under here so you can see, this is why I put a picture of each one of these on the pages so you can see where the fabrics go. Because sometimes it's kind of hard to know where you have to trim. So I always look at the picture if I'm not sure. All right, we're going to do this block. There's some squares on the corners that we need to get rid of because we want to expose that A fabric under there. But applique and reverse applique are, I've done a lot of reverse applique, and so this was kind of one when I started doing it. And you trim away the top fabric to expose the bottom. Oops, I'm going to have to trim a little closer over there. Whoops. Going to have the hoop on the floor too. It's hard to trim. I always trim over on the table. It's hard to trim in front of the camera because I'm trimming on my machine. So is this making sense to everybody? Does everybody understand what I'm doing? So then I'm going to get these little triangles out here. Got this. Looks good. Got a little spot here that isn't quite close enough. I can trim that a little bit. And here's another triangle I have to do here. I've really been enjoying working on this quilt again. I did another row last week. I think I put a picture up on the group, and people have been putting pictures up of some of their rugs. That's awesome. I'm anxious to see some of your starting over blocks. So if you don't have, you probably don't have yours put together like mine, but go ahead and post some of your blocks if you've got blocks done, because I know people have been telling me they've been working on them. So I'm anxious to see them. It's always fun to see the colors because they're so different. Everybody comes up with totally different colors. Okay. And then now we're to the reverse applique. So I'm going to look at my picture here. And if you see here, I need to cut out the orange or the peachy color that's over these A's because I want this to be the A color. Okay, so we're going to do some reverse applique now. And we're going to trim out these little triangles right here. So I'm just going to kind of snip the fabric just lightly to make a little hole so I can stick the tip of my scissor in there and go around these little triangles. And you got to be a little careful not to cut your fabric underneath. I have done it before, sometimes I've had to make some blocks over again, but most of the time I can do pretty well. All right, so we get that out of there. Okay, so there's one of the little triangles. We'll have to do the other 3. Second here. Around the corner here. These take a little bit to trim. I've got kind of a mess over here on my machine. I'll have to pick it up. All right, we'll get this one. Oops, hopefully I'm not bouncing you around too much. It's very easy for me to hit this camera, and it bounces. I've got it like on a little gooseneck holder, and then I can move it around, and so it bounces really bad. All right, getting just about done. So what kind of colors are people choosing? Give me go ahead and answer what some of the colors that you're choosing, like your backgrounds. Are people doing light backgrounds, dark backgrounds? Are you using scraps? Scrappy is good. Haven't seen too many blocks yet, so I'm anxious to see what they look like. All right, we're going to get around this one, just about done here. Okay. All right. Get some of these out of my way here. Just a minute. Got all kinds of fabric all over my sewing machine. Okay, so there is my applique fabric taken out, and then I did these little reverse appliques in the center. Okay, now the next step on the instructions is to use the fabric glue, the fabric glue stick, and we're going to put the backing on. Now my fabric is light red, black, plaid, and grays. Yeah, I knew Mitzi was doing the grays. It was really pretty. Oh, you're going to do your backgrounds in blacks and grays, Lynn? Cool. I know people have still been saying they're shopping for fabric. They haven't quite gotten everything they wanted yet. So, okay. So, on my quilt blocks, I was doing those light. I've got this real light backing. So, I am not going to change the bobbin thread yet when I'm putting the back on because my fabric is white, and I'm just going to use the bobbin thread until I get done with my stippling. So I'll show you that step next. So we're going to take our fabric glue, my glue stick. I got my Dritz glue stick. I'm just going to go around the corner here, around each side, and then we're going to lay the fabric over the glue and press it down a little bit. And then I always turn it over on the machine and give it a press to make sure that it stays put. Okay? And then I'm going to leave my regular bobbin thread in yet to go around this. And then I always peek underneath here to make sure that I didn't flip that fabric over when I put it in the machine, okay? So the next step, number 6, then, is going to go around the outside edge and hold on my backing. Looks like I got some little tails sticking up. I'll have to do a little more trimming. I hope to get this row done this week, so maybe I'll work on it later tonight after everybody's done. Or after we're done here, I'll work on some more blocks. I'm getting to some of the longer rows, so I'm just about halfway done. So, okay. All right. So now my backing is secured. The next step on the machine, then, number 7, is going to be the stippling that's going to be in my light color background. Since I'm lazy and I don't like to change bobbins too well, I have been leaving my bobbin thread, my white bobbin thread, in the back, for the back. Normally, if you're using another color here for your stippling, I would tell you to change your bobbin thread now since the back is on, okay? But I use just the bobbin thread since mine is white. If I was using black, I would have put black embroidery thread in the bobbin at this point. I will put it in for the next step because I'm going to do some of the peachy color. There'll be some stuff in the peachy colored area, okay? So we're going to do the stippling, and I'm going to do that in the white. And I also pieced it in the white because most of my colors are quite light colored, and I just like to piece with kind of a neutral color. And I've been choosing the white to do that. So it depends on your colors. Like if you're doing grays, maybe a light gray would be a good piecing color too, because it wouldn't really show. The white doesn't show like through my gray that I'm putting on as my satin stitching. So I've been using white for the piecing. Okay, while we're watching the sewing, are there other questions about some of the things we've talked about in the last couple of times? Have people started blocks? I know that some of you have. Sorry that this is bouncing a little bit tonight. I'm going to move it away just a little further. It seems like it's really bouncy tonight. I don't know why. Could be that little hoop. Sometimes the little hoop makes things bouncy. Looks like I got cat hair on here. Imagine that. Okay, so it's going around and doing all the little white stippling. So people are, is anybody still having trouble choosing fabrics that they wanted? Have you kind of come up with the ideas that you wanted for your fabric, or are you using scraps out of your stash? I didn't have enough background, so I knew I had to buy the background, but I ended up buying the fabric for the blocks too. And it wasn't that expensive, so I just bought what I wanted. So I didn't have quite enough colors. I looked in my stash, but I didn't have quite enough of the colors I was looking for. So sometimes I have like a half yard cut instead of a whole yard. Just gonna do the stippling. You guys are quiet. Are you still hearing me okay? Everybody's quiet tonight. There's a lot of people here. Sometimes if I have to write something. Sometimes I have to write something to get the comments to come through. I have trouble with the comments coming through sometimes. Oh, and I noticed people are doing, oh, Mitzi's there. I noticed people are making some of their oh, good, now we got all thumbs ups going. Okay, awesome, so you're still hearing me, okay. I noticed that people are doing some patches, too. Have you seen the patches, for those of you who are in the software group? People are making patches, so some of them are turning out great. I really love Lynn's little lady. Lynn was texting me about midnight last night. She was having trouble with the one. I'm not sure that I was very coherent at that time, Lynn. I hope I made sense when you were talking to me. I was actually not asleep, but I was really tired yesterday. I enjoyed the quilt show today, though. All right, well, we're getting closer here. I have a couple tricks to show you when we go to do the other blocks. So, oh, Jackie's treadmilling. That sounds like lots of fun, Jackie. I have a treadmill too, but mine's a manual one, and so it's like you're walking uphill. So I have to be a little careful. I have a bad knee, and it bothers me to walk sometimes on it. You finished up at 4:30? What time did you get up this morning, Lynn? You really wanted to get your patches done, didn't you? They turned out great. It's really fun to make the projects, and the next one, the little USB case, is really cute too. So that'll be a fun one to make. All right, we got two more little places to go here. So I'm sorry this is going on a little ways, but I thought this would be a good block because it didn't have too many pieces, and I just wanted to review the making of the blocks so that if you had questions about them. Okay, looks like I'm going to have a tail there to cut. Now I do have a couple tricks that I do with the, oh cool, that's wonderful, Jackie. The less pills you can take, the better. Okay, so now we have gotten all of the little stippling done. And I always do this with this, when I get to this point, I like to pull this off the machine and to flip it over. And if I've got a bunch of little tails sticking up on the back at this point, because there's some starts and stops, you know, and then our machines make little knots, I like to do a fair job of trimming. Because if I trim these little tails off, when I go to put the satin stitches on, the satin stitches will cover them all up and you won't even see them. So I do spend a little time now, after I do the stippling, doing some trimming on the back. I tried to leave the tails where they'd be. I knew that there'd be some. I tried to leave them in like along the satin stitch line so that they would be covered up when you did the satin stitches. And then there's a few like out along the edges here, and those really can be just left there because we're going to put this together with some strips, and the strips will cover them up. So it's not really necessary to get too worried about like out here on the edges. But I like to get those little tails trimmed down in the center, because then my satin stitches cover them up really well. Okay, so I've got those all trimmed off. Okay, now is the point where the next number 8 is going to be some decorative stitching in the center here, the center square, and I'm definitely going to change my bobbin thread to the embroidery thread now. Oh, we have a couple comments. I was just checking to make sure. Okay, so I'm going to pull this white thread out of my bobbin now, and I'm going to put in this little peachy color. And what I did is I'm matching my fabric to my thread. So I just had like 6 colors of thread is all I have in my quilt, and I to keep it down so I didn't have to worry about what I was using. Made it really easy. But I do want to have matching thread in the bobbin now since my back is on. Okay, and then that'll make the back pretty. And then I'm going to switch the colors here to this peachy color. Got to get the white out of the way. Had a really long tail here. There we go. Put this one on. Hopefully I won't bonk the camera too hard. Put it up there. Alright, so we'll thread the machine with this other color. Second here. And then we're going to do the little decorative stitch in the center of the star. I think that was the only decorative stitch I did on this one, was just that little square in the center. And then we'll do some satin stitches. But I wanted to do a couple of blocks for you tonight so that you could see the differences. Oh, hi, we still got more people coming in. All right. So you could see the differences in these, and then the other, you need some other blocks in the center, of course. All right, so I'm going to take this out. I'm going to turn this over, and I like to kind of trim as I go. So again, I'm going to kind of trim these little, I got a little knot here. I'd like it to be prettier on the back, so I'm going to trim that off, because the satin stitches often will just cover those right up. Okay, so now you can see I have the little peach color on the back. And now I'm ready. The last step is the satin stitches. So I'm going to switch my bobbin thread again to my gray that I've been using for my satin stitches. Put the gray in the bobbin. I wonder if Judy's working along with me tonight. She's been working on her blocks too. And then we're going to switch to the gray. I got it up here. I had to wind a bobbin. I was out of gray bobbin thread. Oops, second here. Can't reach it. This on there. But I thought I'd better do another block, so if people had questions about the blocks. Alright, so again, I've got my matching thread in the bobbin now. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do the satin stitching. So if there's any comments here. Oh, yep, Deb just got here. Oh, hi, Margaret. Okay, so it's going to do the satin stitches. Okay, so this is another good time for questions. Are people doing okay with batting? We talked about the batting last time. I like a lighter weight batting, and what I'm using is Hobbs 80/20. It's a kind of a poofy batting, and it's lighter weight, soft. So I've noticed a huge difference in this quilt over the original one I did. The instructions called for warm and natural, and that's about all we had at that time. The warm and natural is very stiff. Sewing bindings. Oh, Judy's sewing bindings on charity quilts instead of making starting over blocks. So that's the batting I've been using. Lightweight is what I would tell you, either cotton or cotton blend, but a very lightweight batting and soft. Then we talked about, let's see, the stabilizer. We already talked about stabilizer. We talked about our fabrics a little bit. Again. Has everybody gotten fabric for their strips? So next time we'll be putting our quilt together, and there are strips that hold it together, and they need to be cut at one inch. Okay, so that's something that you will need to do before the next time if you're going to put a few blocks together with me. Let's see, what else have we talked about? We have the next block we're going to do is going to be one of the filler blocks on the inside. I wanted to be able to do a couple blocks for you tonight. Those go very fast. But I have a couple tricks with those because I found that they actually work better with turning off the jump clipper. Now I leave the jump clipper on when I'm doing these blocks. It seems to work better. When we did these years ago, we turned off the jump clippers because at that time we had a lot of people with like 4,000 Ds, 4,500 Ds, like 2,800 Ds. And the tails are much longer on those machines. So it left really big knots on the back. So when I made these blocks originally, I turned off the jump clipper, so it didn't clip the clips. But I'm finding with this machine, I don't have to. Oh, do you wind the, yes, you wind the embroidery bobbin thread, Barb, you put the embroidery thread on your bobbin just like any other thread. And then I use a number 11, 7511 needle. I hardly ever embroider with anything else, and that works really great. If you like something different, you can use that, but I've been using 11 for years. That's pretty much all I use. Okay, now it's going to go down and do the sides. I'm getting about done here. Satin stitches take a few minutes, so. I think the whole block was only about 18 minutes, something like that. I tried to pick one that wouldn't take too long. But let's see, what else have we talked about? But if you turn the jump clipper off, I'll be showing you that in a couple of minutes, about turning off the jump clipper. And so you can turn them off for these blocks also if you want, but I'm not finding that I needed to. I did for the first couple I did, and I thought, oh heck, I'm just going to try it with it turned on, and they really were fine. When we did these, we tried to keep the ties on the outside edges so that, honestly you don't have to trim too much. But I do have to trim a little after that stippling, and that's the only time I really trim much, because most of the ties are on the outside edges of the block, and they are going to be underneath that stripping. When you go to put them together, it's going to all be hidden. So if you do have a few ties on the outside, it's fine. But when we do these other blocks tonight, they actually work better with the jump clipper turned off because of the way they're circles, and they kind of come together, and they want to leave some knots on the back. So I've actually turned it off. So I'll show you how to do that. Turn off your jump clipper. This is one of my favorite blocks. I had this one, and the next one in this row is a pinwheel block, and I've always liked that one. So this row had a lot of fun blocks in it. And I think there was one other one in this row that I really liked. Oh yeah, there was a square one they called it flying squares, and they had a whole bunch of teeny little squares in the center. And I liked that one too. So I've got this row won't take long because a lot of them are 2 colors. So, but I think there are 8 blocks in this. Yeah, 8 blocks in this row, and then 9 in the next row, which would be row I. And that's the longest row. The row I is going to have the most blocks in it, the most piece blocks. So I'm getting close to being half done. Oh, hi Sharon. Sharon made it. Oh, hi Cheryl. Cheryl made it too. Oh, and I wanted to tell everybody, I didn't think about it last week, but last week marked the 1-year anniversary of Sew Along with Jan. We had our first live class on February 10th last year. And so this is the 16th, but I meant to say something, but we did software last week instead. So we're just 1 year old. I can't believe it's been a whole year already that we've been doing this. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I've been really enjoying doing this for you. Gives me something to look forward to every week to do. So yeah, so 1 year ago on February 10th, I went back and looked. Oh, cool! People are sending up little hearts and stuff. That's cool. My friend Connie, who is my doll teacher, my porcelain doll teacher, encouraged me to try this because she's been doing this now for a couple of years, and I take doll class online every Wednesday night now. And so she kind of encouraged me to try this, and it's been really fun. I mean, it has been really fun, and she enjoys doing it too. Okay, so look, our block is done. Look at all the pretty gray satin stitches. I'll turn it over so you can see the back. Now there are a couple little tails here that I'll probably trim off, you know, before I put it away. There's a couple ones that got kind of stuck here. Okay, and then I'll trim those off so then the back will be nice and neat when I go to put it together. Okay. So there is another piece block. So we reviewed our piece block. Oops, I got to get the comments to come up here. Oh, good. Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, happy anniversary. I just thought that was so cool. I knew it was around the first, it was before Valentine's Day that we did the first class online, but I couldn't remember if it was just before or just after. And I went and looked up, and it was the 10th of February. So, okay, so here is our piece block. So is everybody understanding the procedure for the piece blocks? Is this making sense to everybody? You can send me some thumbs up if that's working for you. Oh, cool. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, I thought that was awesome that was the anniversary. All right, so I'm going to take this one out, and we're going to move on to the, one second here, I got to find my stabilizer. Here's one of those pre-cuts without it being in the hoop. This is an 8x8 one. So I'll put this one in the hoop. And this is going to be, we're going to do one of the Celtic Circles, okay? Now the Celtic Circles are those, you know, the little circle blocks that are in there, and these are the filler blocks. Okay, so here is my stabilizer. And these blocks are done differently. So give me a second here. I gotta find everything here. All right, so we're gonna go back over here and we'll get our design. And these were in a different folder. All right, so we'll go back to home. I'm going to go back to my embroidery and my USB stick here. And they were in the folder called, it's towards the bottom, Triangles and Celtic Circles. Okay, so if I touch Triangles and Celtic Circles, this is the Celtic Circle. But I wanted to talk a little bit about these other blocks so we don't get them mixed up. So this one says corner triangles. Remember we said there were 4 corners of the quilt, and you only need 4 of these. So these are the smaller triangles that go in the corners that I showed you, okay? But the ones that we're going to do tonight, and we'll do those in a minute, we're going to do those second, are the setting triangles. And those are the bigger ones that go on the ends of each of the rows, so they're on the sides. So we're going to do this one. Now, I made this design years ago for people who only had 4x4 hoops. So they could do these, all the blocks in the 4x4 hoop, including the setting triangle. So what I did is I'm going to use this one because I can make 2 setting triangles at once in a 5x7 hoop. So that's what this one is. And if you want to make them individually, or if you only have a 4x4 hoop, which I think most of you have bigger hoops now, this one was made so you could do them singly in a 4x4 hoop. And you could still do it, but it was just small. I made it so you could do it in the little machines. Okay? So we're going to start with the Celtic Circles. So I'm going to grab my Celtic Circle, and I'm going to hit set. And the Celtic Circles are towards the back of the book. Let's see, they're on page, I got to find it here. The instructions, I should say, are on page, should have had this marked, I didn't have it marked. In a second here. It is on page 139, okay? Now, this one's going to be different. It says, hoop the stabilizer, which we just did. Using fabric glue stick, attach the backing fabric to the underside of the hoop. Then place the batting and the fabric A, or the background fabric, in the hoop. So we're actually going to start with fabric right on the back, right at the beginning. So I'm going to push this back over here. I turn my hoop over upside down, and I'm going to grab my backing fabric. Second here. So here's my backing fabric. I'm going to take my glue stick, and we're going to apply the backing fabric to the back of the hoop. I'm not sure if I got any glue stick out here. There we go. We're going to put the backing on. I got to make sure I get it right side up. You want to put the right side, you know, up so you can see the pretty side. Okay, then I'm going to smooth it on, and I'm going to turn my hoop over and press a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in my batting and my front fabric. So we're going to start the whole procedure with all the fabric in the hoop. So these go really fast. They only take about 2 minutes to sew out. Okay, so there's my hoop, the backing fabric's on, the batting's in the hoop, and the top fabric. Now I'm using my gray for my Celtic Circles, so I have my matching, because remember the back's on, so my matching thread is in the bobbin, and my gray's on the top. So that's the color I want my Celtic Circle to be. And I'm going to put the whole thing, again, we're going to peek underneath there, make sure we didn't get it flipped over. Okay? Now, this is where I am going to go ahead and I am going to turn off my jump clipper. So I want to hit embroidery. I need to be on the embroidery screen. It takes about 2 minutes to do a Celtic Circle. And down here, next to where we could skip steps, we don't need to skip any this time. This one here, the one with the little scissor on it, that's where you can turn off your jump clipper. And I'm going to click on this button. And there's the end clipper. That's the one that clips, you know, at the very end of the color. But I just want this jump clipper to be off. So I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to hit OK. So if you wanted to do this on your other blocks, like if you have a 4000D or 4500D or maybe a 2800D and it's leaving those really long tails, you can do this for all your blocks. But then you got to kind of sit there, you know, and you got to trim as you go. I like to be able to get up and move. This one actually works okay this way because there's not a lot of jumping around, and I can just let it go and from start to finish and not have to watch it too close. When you don't have a jump clipper turned on, it is possible for the foot to get caught under your fabric or under your thread. So, okay, so now I'm going to go, I've got my jump clipper turned off. The first thing it's going to do, let me show you another trick. I forgot about this trick. So you can see there's two colors. So the first one is the outline. The reason I made this in 2 steps is because I usually like my outline of my block to be pretty matchy so that when I go to put it together, I don't have a real startlingly different color here. Okay? And then my Celtic Circle. So like when we did the black quilt, we sewed the outline in the black. And then we did the Celtic Circle part in the center in a variegated thread. I did not want the variegated around the outside edge though, because then it would kind of show when I went to put it together. Now this particular one, the gray does not jump out much, so I've been doing mine all in the same color. So in order for me to not have to push the button a second time, if you go to layout, and some of you, the rest of them would be edit, by the way. See this little button right here that looks like a spool with the little dots under it? That's the monochrome button. So if I touch that and I close my layout, now they're going to sew, both of them are going to sew, and I don't have to stop, it won't stop in between the colors. But if you need to change your color around the outside edge, you need to let it stop, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over here. And I'm just going to let mine go. So we'll get it centered, and it's going to do the outline first, so I kind of watch it to make sure it doesn't pucker or anything on me. And I could have done this in white. You know, if I really wanted it to be very matching, I could have done my outlines in white. But the gray is quite subtle, and my strips are gray, so I didn't really notice it much. Okay? Now it is not going to cut here. Actually, cut after that. This one, that's like an end, and then it won't cut in the center here. Okay? So now it's going to do the circles. And I did this in a little triple stitch. So does this make sense to everybody? These blocks are different. So you put the backing on, the batting in the hoop, and the top fabric, and you do it all at the same time, and you don't have to stop in between. I did digitize that line to be separate in case you needed to change your thread color for your borders or for the outside edge. But see, it didn't cut here. See, there's a little thing here. And then after it's all done, then I go ahead and trim those real quick, and they don't take very long. But I wanted to show you that there's a difference in the way these sew. So they're really fun. So what I've been doing with mine is I've been doing the whole row. So instead of like making 60 or 70 of these all at once, I've been sewing the blocks, all the piece blocks, and then I go back and sew, like, I don't know, I think I need there'll be 9 of these blocks in this row that I'm doing. So I'll just do the 9 Celtic Circles for that row, and then I do the triangles that we're going to do in a minute, and then I just do one row at a time. So it's been really faster almost for me to do just one row at a time. I do the entire row, including the setting blocks, and then I can put it together instead of having to do all of these at once. I remember when we did our original quilts, we had to do a lot of these blocks, you know. So we would put them on like the PR and run them because we were doing so many of them. But this has been working pretty well for me, and I've just been kind of doing one row at a time. All right, we're just about done. I think this one's like 2 minutes. There's about a little over 1,000 stitches in it. Okay. There's a Celtic Circle. Okay, and then I'll take these, and you can see there's the little threads here. I'll go ahead and just take these little threads and I'll trim them all. And I'll do this when I take it out of after I take it out of the hoop, because I'll stick another one in, and then I'll turn it over and I'll do the same thing to the back. I want to make sure that I don't forget the back ones, because then it gets those all out of there. And it's very neat when you turn off the jump clipper, because there's little ties. Otherwise, there's like little knots, and if I turn it off, then I don't have those on the back of these. The blocks, it doesn't seem to matter so much, but this one, it works better. So, okay. So is there any questions on how to get your jump clipper turned off? And yes, you have to turn it back on, so don't forget to turn it back on when you're ready to do the next blocks, okay? All right, any questions about the jump clipper? You understand that? Oh, why do I cut it off, Lynn? The reason I cut it off, the jump clipper, is because these circles were like 4 circles that were joined together, and it was leaving like little tails, long tails here, and quite heavy knots, and they were quite noticeable. And so I found that if I turned off the jump clipper, it just made the back much neater, and I didn't have to do as much clipping. And that's why I do. These work better. I don't need to do it really with the other blocks anymore. But if you have an older machine, some of the older machines had really long tails, and that's why I turned them off for all of them. You know, for when we did the original quilts, we turned it off for all of the blocks. But these are the only ones I'm doing now, because the tails are much shorter on the newer machines. I've noticed that they've changed the machines, the way the thread or the thread cutters cut. They're in a different position. So, okay. So there's the Celtic Circle. Anybody have any more questions about the Celtic Circles? They're pretty easy. All right, so now we're going to do one last block so you can see how those work. This one's going to be done in the 5x7, because remember those setting triangles I told you? I made a design so you could do 2 at a time. Now so on each row you're going to have a setting triangle on each end of the row. A couple of the rows will have that little smaller triangle because they're on a corner. So you'll have to kind of watch your chart towards the front of the book to make sure you're putting the right triangle on. All right. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. We'll go over here and get our design. Oops. Gotta get my camera turned around here. Go back to where the triangles and the setting triangles and stuff were. And they're down here. Triangles and Celtic circles. And then I'm going to choose, not the corner triangle, that's the littler ones. I want the setting triangles, but I want to do 2 at a time. Since I have a bigger hoop, I can do that. So there's my setting triangle. I'm going to hit set. Okay. And I'm going to hit embroidery. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. I have 2 steps. So if you have like a black block and you're using like a variegated thread, you may want to put the black around the outside edge so that you don't have, it won't show as much. And then the second color would be your decorative thread on the inside. Okay, so on mine, it's okay. I'm going to do the same little trick. I'm going to do layout. I'm going to hit that monochrome button. And those of you with Dream Machines and Destinies, yours is still going to say edit here. Ours, they changed it on the Luminaire. So mine says layout. I'm going to do the monochrome. And so now it's not going to stop in between those 2 colors. All right. So again, this one's going to be the same way as the Celtic Circles. So I'm going to turn this over so you can see. I'm going to turn over my hoop to the back. And this time we're using the bigger pieces of fabric. So these were the fabrics that were cut like, I can't remember how big they were. They were like 6 by 8 or something like that. Okay, so this is for the 5 by 7 hoop. I'm going to do the same thing though. I'm going to go around the outside edge with the glue stick. I'm going to stick my backing on in the center of my hoop here and press it on a little bit. Okay. Then I'm going to lay my bigger stabilizer. I think it was 6 by 8. I can't remember the exact measurement. I don't have that in front of me right at the moment. I'm going to lay my batting in, and then I'm going to lay my top fabric on. So we're going to start with all the fabrics in the hoop on this one as well. Okay, there we go. And then I'll put this in the machine. I'm going to leave the same color in. I did all of mine in the gray, so I'm going to use my bobbin thread. I've got my embroidery bobbin thread in the bobbin and my gray in the top. And again, I'm going to peek under here, make sure I didn't flip over a corner underneath there. Right? And then, again, I have my jump clipper off for these. I leave it off. And I'm going to go ahead. And now this one I have to hold a little bit. You want to make sure this doesn't, it's a little bit bigger pieces of fabric so that it doesn't scooch around on you. So it's going to do the outlines first. And then it's going to jump over and do the other outline. Now there is a long thread here, so I'm going to kind of let it take a few stitches, and I'm going to trim that so it doesn't get caught. I just trimmed it off so it wouldn't get caught on me. Okay. And I'm going to stop this just a second, and I'm going to get this out of here so that it won't get caught. Okay. Now it's going to do the center. And it's doing the same thing. It's doing a little triple stitch in the center there. And this is where I kind of got some of the knots, was when I was doing some of these center portions of the Celtic Circles and on the triangles. So that's why I've been turning off my jump clipper. So it's going to do, and it's going to go in there. So there was all these little knots. There would have been a little knot there too. So I really liked it this better with it turned off. I think there was one more. Can't remember if we did. Yeah, we did another triangle there. There we go. But then this way, I need one of these for each end of my row, and so it's all there. Does the long string show up on the back? Yes, it will. And I'll trim that as well, Jackie. And it will be fine on the underneath. I don't think things don't get caught. Where it gets caught is on the foot, on the front, and that's why I trim it so before it goes any further, because it would get caught on my foot, and then the hoop sometimes could get out of alignment. Yep. So this one's okay. This one right here was okay because my foot was going the opposite direction. So. And this one takes about 2 minutes too. You'll need one of these for each end of your row. The one row, let me see while this is sewing. The one row that needs the little block on the other corner is in the front. Let's see here. The one that needs the small row is actually row I, and this is row, I said this is row H, so the next row needs a small square on the other end of it. So one end, so you'll have to look at your little block diagram on page 12. So be watching that so you know which ones you need if you're going row by row. But when I make the next row, then I will make a small block for the one end, because that's going to be the corner of the quilt. So I'm getting close to being half done. All right, so then here is our 2 setting triangles. Let's see if I can pull this down a little bit so you can see me trip, and I'll have to get my little trims done. We're not used to trimming jump clips anymore. You know, we all have these wonderful machines with jump clippers on them. It doesn't take very long, and they're much neater. I learned this by accident because at the time I was doing the quilt originally, I was having trouble with my Quattro, and I was using my little 4x4 machine a lot, and it didn't have a jump clipper, and I thought, well, why do these blocks look so much prettier than my ones from my Quattro? And that's why, is because I had no jump clipper. So I still do that with these. Okay, so then I'll just go through and trim these all off. Then, for the trimming, it does tell you at the bottom, you're going to do the trimming with these the same way as you've been doing the blocks. We're going to take our rotary ruler and we're going to lay it on this line or just slightly inside, and you're going to trim 1/4 inch away from that placement line around the outside edge, on the triangles and on the circles. So these are all going to be trimmed the same way. You're going to do 1/4 inch through all layers. All the layers, because we want that batting in there, because we need that when we go to put it together, all around all 4 sides. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? So these are going to be done the same way. So now you can start working on your circles and your triangles, and you can get those done for each row. And if you count on your diagram on page 12, it'll tell you how many you need for each row. Okay, so if you're kind of done with some of the piece blocks, you can go back and get some of these Celtic Circles done, so you've got them done for your rows. Okay? All right. So that is month number 2 for starting over, where we've got these are all of the inside blocks. So you can work on your piece blocks, you can work on your Celtic Circles, and you can work on your triangles for the center. Okay? Are there any questions? I'm anxious to see some blocks, so if some of you have got your blocks done, just snap a picture of some of them and put them up on the group, because I'd love to see the colors. Okay? Are there any other questions? Put this up so we can say goodbye. Just a second here, if I can get this turned around. Okay? Any other questions? There's always a delay, so it takes a minute for people to get back to me. Okay, so next week we are going to be doing scan and cut, and we're going to make the scan and cut cover. I'm not going to sew it in the class. We're going to work on the decoration part, but I will explain to you how to sew together the pattern, to sew the cover together yourself. I will also upload 2 patterns. I'll do one for the newer machine, and one for the older machines, because the older ones were smaller. So I have 2 patterns. So I'll have them up there for you, and then we'll make a scan and cut cover next week. Oh, cool. Yeah, you're not quite ready yet, are you, Lynn? Yeah. So anyway, if you have any questions during the week, make sure you message me or whatever. And I know, and then like for the scan and cut cover next time, I will be uploading the patterns during the week. I'll get them up there so they're up there before Sunday. So we'll do that, and then we're going to decorate the front of it. It turned out really cute. I was really happy with it. And the pattern took me a little while to figure out, but I had to redraw the pattern from the older one. It was too small, so I had to redo it and I knew how I did it, but I had to redo the whole thing. So I think it fits pretty good. So all right. So everybody have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week for the Scan and Cut cover. So good night, everybody. Thank you.